So hello everyone. Thank you for being here. Buenas tardes a todos, todas, todes. I have so many things here. So this panel is called Claiming Our Space. And I was thinking, while I was preparing for this panel, that we shouldn't have this kind of panels. I mean, we shouldn't be claiming our spaces. But for once, it's very nice of being here on stage and being seen by you. Because I'm sure they share with me this feeling of being sometimes erased or invisible. So I'm going to introduce myself first. I'm Luz Aranda. I'm based in Mexico. I'm a bisexual feminist woman. I lead a very small organization in Mexico called Las Reinas Chulas. It's something like the cute, badass queens. Something like that. We are a group of feminist, bisexual, and lesbian women activists. And I'm also part of ILGA World. And I'm very happy to be here with these people. And for start the conversation, before I present these amazing persons, I want us to think about intersectionality. So when I think about intersectionality, I think that we, all of us, are made of multiple identities, not just one, multiple identities. And we also have multiple layers. And one of our layers or our identities feel oppression and privilege in a different way. Sometimes we can be very privileged. Sometimes we can feel the oppression so much. So, as I said, I'm a woman, bisexual, feminist, activist, friend. I'm a hard worker, and I'm also a mother. And that's one of the things that I enjoy most at this moment of my life. That's why when people know that I'm bisexual and they ask immediately about my sex life, assuming that I have multiple partners, always is a delusion, like always is sad, always is like, that's not who I am. I mean, I'm a lot of things. Because they reduce me, when they ask me about my sexual partners, they reduce me of a little tiny part of me. So I have to say I'm bisexual when I have a partner, but I'm bisexual when I don't have it. And I'm bisexual in my office, and I'm bisexual in the elementary school when I go to pick up my kid, too. I mean, I'm still bisexual there. When I am. When I talk to his teacher. So I'm sure that the persons in this panel share with me the feeling of being reduced of one thing. So I'm going to present these amazing people, and I tried to print this, so I wouldn't do like this, but I couldn't, so it is what it is. So I want to present Akii Nego, is that correct? Kind of? No. Okay, she will correct me. They will correct me, so sorry. Akii is the Accessibility Manager of Sydney WorldPride, Senior Co-Design Advisor of NDIA, Disability Consultant and Trainer, Councillor on Victorian, is a community leader and intersectional multi-award winning disability, gender equity advocate and activist who is deeply passionate about disability rights, intersectionality, inclusion, and co-design. And I have to say that Aki's hobby is traveling and exploring the world. Then we have Kate Wood. Kate is an activist and researcher identifying as asexual and queer. Her work focuses on discrimination, violence, and hate crime against asexual and aromantic people. She is the research director of ACE and Arroyo Collective AU. And I have to say, Kate's favorite ice cream flavor is chocolate. And we have Irene Kuzenko. She is a 29-year-old from Ukraine and Russia who is currently living in Berlin, Germany. Irene is a proud intersex person and an activist. She works as a capacity and community building officer of OII Europe and is also a co-founder of Intersex Russia, OII Russia, and a member of Intersex Youth. So, Irene likes horror movies. Wait. Her favorite one is called The Abominable Dr. Phipps. I haven't seen it, but I can't wait. Oh, good. We have here Taz.
Sorry.
So Taz is a Kalkadoon and Bwgcolman brotherboy. He uses his lived experience to educate around LGBTI health, suicide prevention within the LGBTI sister girl, brother boy, and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community, out of home care and alcohol and other drug support. And I would like to ask you, what's your favorite food?
That's easy, tacos.
Okay, that's mine too. Thank you.
Cool.
So we have half an hour to talk a little bit. So I would like to ask you, the four of you, to open the conversation, if you can you tell us a bit about your intersectional experiences and how they have impacted your experience of visibility and inclusion?
Sure, I'll start. So I'm Akii. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a trans, non-binary person of colour from a refugee background. My parents came to Australia by boat and we lived in a small regional town of Geraldton in Western Australia. So you can imagine the racism, being like the only POC in the community, and I'm also a survivor advocate of intimate partner and family violence, and one of my disabilities, my main one, my spinal injury, is as a result of intimate partner violence. So I do a lot of advocacy work around that area because people with disabilities, particularly girls, women, feminine identifying and non-binary people are disproportionately impacted by violence. So that intersection, plus who I am, my sexuality as a pansexual, bisexual person, my race, my upbringing, being a third culture child, all comes together and intersects with the different levels of oppression and marginalisation, the racism, the transphobia, the homophobia, the ageism, the sexism, all the obias, all the isms, and it is difficult, but we are here and we are reclaiming our space. So that's just a bit about me.
Thank you.
Oh, you're looking at me.
Kate.
Okay. Yeah, there's a real intersectional issue when you're asexual and you're neurodivergent, which I am, and you're asexual and you're disabled. So there is a large portion of the asexual population that is also neurodivergent. So yes, a lot of asexual people are autistic, but we also don't want to perpetuate the all autistic people are asexual or the all asexual people are autistic stereotype. I don't want that as a person who is neurodivergent, and I don't want that as a person who is asexual. Not that either thing is an insult, but at the same time, it's just this stereotype that is in people's minds that we do not want to exist. But at the same time, that is my experience. And it's the same thing with being disabled. People with a disability, especially if you use a wheelchair, which I sometimes do, and you're seen to have a physical disability, you're very much desexualized, as though you don't have a sex life. And I don't, but that's my experience. And I don't want to be perpetuating a stereotype about all disabled people just because I myself happen to fit that stereotype. So it's a very difficult path to be in, trying to advocate for asexual people when I also fit into stereotypes about asexual people that I am trying not to perpetuate. And at the same time, I also am a cisgender white woman who appears to be physically abled, which is another stereotype about asexual people, that we are all cisgender white women. And I don't want to be perpetuating that either. So, yeah, there are so many stereotypes about who I am that unfortunately I fit, that I don't want to be perpetuating, but at the same time, they are true, like about who I am. So yeah, it's a real minefield of navigation because people very much want to think in stereotypes and they cannot cope with anything else.
You want to go? Okay. So I'm an intersex woman, and I totally can relate to what you have said about the stereotypes. And for me, I'm very much passionate about the how the topic of intersex rights is presented in the media, in the movies, in books, because for so many people, this is how they learn about this, and with intersex awareness still being on the rise, but still the movement being quite young, there is still a lot of incorrect information out there, a lot of myths, a lot of representation which is harmful or incorrect. So yeah, definitely it's a lot. And talking about, again, reclaiming space, it's so important to be included in a program of such events and actually be there and raise awareness, because so often, I in LGBTI is just a letter without any real inclusion or involvement of the community members. And yeah, I'm also pansexual, another not very often represented identity, and also just thinking about the recent events in the world, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I am half from Ukraine and half from Russia, and I have family in both countries, and it's difficult being sort of on both sides of the conflict, and yeah, it's really been crazy, and yeah.
Thank you.
I guess for me, my intersectionality sit with being Aboriginal as well as trans. And I tend to find that well, I tend to find personally, it's either against my culture to be trans or, you know, an Aboriginal person, you know, possibly could not be trans, so kind of thing. But also within that, then we don't fit into anything else, such as, well, I say we don't fit in, but there's a lot of hard conversations going on and trying to ensure that voices are there through things like sexual health, like HIV, incarceration, child safety, like everything. We're all people, and I think that's like what people forget is that doesn't matter. Like we all have our own cultures and our identities, but we all intersect as people that need support to live. You know, and I think that's something that really gets carried away. Is you know, this like white supremacy and things like that coming across in health movements and things like that. Yeah, it's all a very sort of dangerous space for anyone that's got intersectionalities. But that's where mine sit. In particular with racism. Had far too many close calls with healthcare providers and stuff like that. Purely because I'm Aboriginal and trans. So.
Thank you. Human beings are much more complex than what stereotypes says. And I really believe stereotypes are like very, very harmful, not just for the people who are living the stereotypes or fighting against stereotypes, for all the people. I would like to ask you, each of you, a different question, just we can go deeper into your thoughts or your work. So I'm going to start with Akii. So what are some of the barriers people with a disability face to the inclusion in the LGBTQIA+ community? And what can we be doing better to ensure all individuals have equal access to events and spaces? That's a difficult one, I have to say.
On the note of just stereotypes, just like recognizing as well, I'm also autistic, I have ADHD, but people go, well, you don't look autistic, you can hold a conversation, things like that, and it just doesn't fit into that space, which then leads on to access, because if people don't understand the spectrum of disability and the diversity within disability and how diverse we are as a population, and then you intersect that with being LGBTIQA and recognising how different each of our unique qualities are and each of our access needs are, then how are you going to cater to our support needs and recognise that we all deserve to be included? And so to ensure that accessibility is included is to hire people with disabilities, to hire LGBTIQA people to do work in those spaces, to have co-design, to work with the communities in which we want to support, to get their lived experiences, and to ensure those panels, those committees, those groups, those boards are as diverse as possible and represent as many community members as possible, so they can collectively bring together as many experiences as possible, so that we can include as many people as possible, because it's people with disabilities, we're 15% of the population. That's billions of people. It's 1 in 4 Australians, and it's the largest minority group in the world that anyone can be a part of at any moment and any time. And so access is so crucial, and within LGBTIQA spaces historically haven't been accessible because many countries are still, it's still criminalized. And so we haven't been in the mainstream, we haven't been celebrated, there's still so much bigotry and hatred, so we haven't been just open and out there in public spaces. So we've been down flights of stairs, or, you know, in a hole in the wall, and those spaces aren't wheelchair accessible, they aren't physically accessible from that perspective, and then they don't have an accessible bathroom, just from a physical perspective, but then the knowledge and awareness around other types of access needs to be inclusive of that. So bringing us to the mainstream, hiring us, supporting us, recognizing that we have something to contribute, all of us in our own way, and then paying us for our lived experience, of course. And recognising that lived experience is just as valuable as any qualification, and recognising that you have power in your own story, and then using that power to create change where you do not, where it doesn't exist, and then allies who don't have a disability, getting them to get on board, to go, hey, where is the representation? Let's make that representation happen, and give our experience that amplification that it absolutely needs so that the change happens. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate, the bisexual and asexual, aromantic and agender communities, we both face challenges, which can be compounded by erasure. This likely means that there are people with us today who may not have engaged with the issues our communities face. Can you tell us about some of the most pressing issues faced by asexual, aromantic, and agender communities?
Well, I can't speak to agender because I am not agender, and my work doesn't cover that. But as for asexual and aromantic, my latest study was with asexual people. I surveyed 1,600 asexual people, that was completed, 1,600 people from 57-ish countries, and asked them questions about religious discrimination, sexual violence, physical violence and threats, and intimate partner violence, and the ways they've been treated by the healthcare system. And so I'm now going to give you some numbers. 20 to 30% felt they'd experienced religious discrimination because they are asexual. We estimate, it's hard to get a figure because only 55% of asexual people have ever been in a relationship, but we estimate that roughly 39% of those asexual people who had ever been in a relationship have experienced intimate partner violence, and 80% of those relationships included sexual violence. 28% of all the respondents had experienced sexual violence from a partner. Not including the intimate partner violence, sexual violence because the victim was asexual was about 18 to 25% of respondents. Sexual assault specifically was 11%. So these are after I have removed things like stranger attacks, intimate partner, anything that occurred before the age of 12, just things that were related to the person being asexual. Physical violence and threats, 22 to 27% of respondents. So my response to what is often said is that, oh, asexual people don't experience any kind of oppression or violence. Well, that is now my response, or rather 200 pages worth of report. So one of the challenges I think faced by the asexual community is that they go through this, but we experience a kind of double trauma because we experience this kind of violence and oppression, and we also experienced being told that we do not experience violence and oppression. So I know that I am not triggered by reading other people's accounts of their experiences for 4 hours a day, although I do become a bit unpleasant to talk to. I'm just angry. But I am deeply triggered by people telling me that it does not happen, because it happened to me. And reading about it happening to other people doesn't upset me that much, but being told that it didn't happen, That's what upsets me. Or being told, oh, what happened to you was because of misogyny. What happened to you was because of homophobia. No, I was there. I know what happened to me and I know why it happened to me. So yeah, there is that kind of double trauma that we have to go through. And having the ability to talk about what happened to us. I mean, in this conference, for example, my amazing colleague from Bangladesh, Dipa Mabubi Yasmin, she spoke for 15 minutes, and I am on this panel, and that is the entirety of the asexuality content. And I spent 4 months and had a breakdown trying to get even that much. And I'm sorry, but I feel like I have to say that. When we want to attend a conference, we apply every single time. None of my asexual colleagues around the world have ever been invited to attend a conference. It never happens. We are never paid for our work. Asexual people, asexual organisations have the lowest amount of funding of any kind of organisation, although I must also say that my intersex peers also are paid almost nothing for the work that they do. I feel like I'm finished now. Yeah, that's my rant. I'm done.
So can I just ask you a following question? Where can we read the research? Is it published now? It will be?
It's published on our website. I have a bunch of QR codes on me, so you can simply scan them if you want to find me after, or you can visit our website. It doesn't really come up if you Google it, but our website is at acearocollective.au. But if that doesn't work, yeah, come to me for a QR code.
Thank you. So Taz, how can we address the impact of racism and colonialism within the broader LGBTQIA+ movement, particularly in relation to issues faced by indigenous people and people of color?
Yeah, well, I guess firstly, I recognise that you're on stolen land. It's a good one to start with. Yeah, that's the first one, and sovereignty never ceded. And I think when people realise that, take it at face value, like there's no other ways to put it, like, yeah, this is my people's land, like my ancestors. They bled over this stuff, and I'm not discounting stories, but like, you guys, like, the people that continue to then have to rebut and state their point that other things and all this other stuff happen, is like, you're still not actually listening to the whole thing. Like, what we're saying is like until you can, like, I don't know what it's like to be white, so. But when you wholeheartedly believe in something, then you would fight for that. And I think when you actually accept that this stuff went on, that it's still going on, the impacts stretch far and wide, impact all of our young, old people, babies that aren't even born yet. Like, yeah, you need to take a step back and just listen. I know everyone's got fights and rights and stuff that we need to have addressed, but racism right there is like, yeah. You need to help us first before you guys are worrying about yourselves in this situation. So, yeah, that's yeah. You guys also have to do the work, because I'm sick of it. Because for a long time, I had a lot of people asking me, and a lot of them were my mates and stuff like that, my friends and people that I'd meet, and I'm always down for a chat about things, but just like some of the conversations that were happening, it's just, yeah, it's not beneficial for us. Like, yeah, we need you guys to fight for us like you would fight for your own rights as a queer person. Because, yeah, guess what I think, like, at the end of the day is, like, people are dying over their skin colour. And that's, yeah. Yeah, it's not okay, and, you know, like, qualities of life and stuff like that. Like, I think, yeah, yeah, you just gotta step back, take time, and respect. Like, you know, I think that's all I keep thinking about is like hearing out intersectionalities and stereotypes. Is like it's coming from a place of not respecting the fact that people are different and wanting others to fit in somewhere. Like, if you were a decent human and you cared about other humans, you wouldn't be like that. But also, I think as people, and that's why. You know, so many black fellas come from strong lines of activism and leaders and warriors and all that sort of stuff is because, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. But yeah, I'm gonna stop there. But yeah, you just gotta chill out, please.
Thank you. So, Irene, what are some of the key issues that intersex people face in terms of visibility and inclusion?
That's a very good question. Thank you so much. And I would say the entire intersex experience and realities of the intersex movement are still so much invisible in our society, even though I doesn't stand for invisible, it stands for intersex. But the medical standards and medical treatment of people with variations of sex characteristics is, you know, still so normalized and not known much about, because, you know, for so long intersex people were literally made invisible and literally cut to fit into those chosen roles for them, you know, because just by our existence we are disrupting the binary nature of society, you know. And yeah, since approximately 1950s of the 20th century, the medical standard is to surgically and with other means to fix, in quotes, intersex bodies and make us fit into the binary model and the role that is chosen for us. And to this day, you know, the standard is to hide the truth from the intersex person. So, you know, if you are intersex, your human rights sort of magically disappear, and, you know, the doctor is there deciding for you, either with your parents or even hiding the truth from your parents. So, since it's considered that a person will not be cis if they know the truth, or they will not be able to comprehend such a horrible truth and they will kill themselves or something, even though there is absolutely nothing terrible in being intersex, it's actually phenomenal. And finding out the truth about me being intersex was the best thing that has ever happened to me. It literally split my life into before and after, and my life really began when I was 22 and I found out that I'm intersex. And literally all the happiness, everything in my life that I cherish, most of those things, have happened to me because I found out that I'm intersex. And you know, because when it's the truth about yourself, your own body, there's nothing scary, you know. And I am so personally passionate about changing this narrative of this, you know, pity, that, oh my God, how sad is that you were born this way, you're gonna have such a difficult life. No, I'm incredible, and our variations of sex characteristics are beautiful, and the only thing that is terrible is what's being done to us because we are intersex. You know, so for so long, people just didn't know the truth about themselves, or they were told, which is a very common narrative, people are told to never tell anyone about yourself, you know? So even if a person knows the truth, they were told to, oh, you're the only one, never tell anyone. And, you know, actually, intersex movement is still quite young. The first intersex group actually was created here in Australia in 1985, and it currently is IPSA, the Intersex Peer Support Australia, if I remember correctly. And the bigger growth of the movement really became possible with the creation of the internet, you know, because it allowed for those connections and for this real anonymity. So people could share anonymously about their personal stories, you know, about something that they were told to never share with anyone, something that so many have always thought that they're the only ones. And slowly people started finding each other, you know, and connecting. And from them, the movement started growing. And just to finish off, because I'm probably rambling for too long, for me personally, when I found out that me being intersex and the surgeries that were done to me, when I found out that it was all kept secret from me on purpose, that my father really did it, and he said that, oh, I'm not gonna apologize, I did the right thing. Haven't spoken to him since. But, you know, when I found out that it was done on purpose, I did not know how to continue living, because my life could have been completely different. I could have avoided years of pain and shame and self-hatred, you know, but there is nothing I could do about this. And for like several days, I was sort of in trance and shock. And what really saved me is reading the stories of other intersex people. And I saw that, hey, my story is not the only, you know, incredible rare case. No, it's actually, there are so many similar narratives, and my story is actually typical. So many intersex people have been lied to, or have been the truth hidden from us, and the consent and human rights taken from us, and the decisions made for us, for our own bodies, our own healthy, beautiful bodies. And yeah, I realized that my story is typical, and it's a part of a large problem in our society with how intersex people are being treated. And I met amazing, incredible people in a community from all around the world, and I realized that I could join them, and I could try to raise awareness and try to do something to save intersex kids in the future from things that happened to me and to us, to save them from IgM, intersex genital mutilation, from secrecy, from any kind of intersex phobic violence. And yeah, my favorite thing right now is cuddling intersex babies, because they're just so beautiful, so wonderful. So yeah, there is also this like selfish reason. I do this work because I want to just meet all the happy, amazing children and make sure that their lives are happy and they would not face human rights violations. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are almost at the end of this panel. So I want to ask a last question, and I would like to know, I would like to ask each of you if you could think of a moment when you felt inclusion worked, and I felt right, and I felt included. So just in a couple of sentences, if you could share one moment like that.
I have a lot
Akii.
of moments, but we're running out of time. Well, firstly, working for Sydney WorldPride is the first workplace where I haven't experienced homophobia, transphobia, and all the obias and the racism. So that has been a really, really wonderful experience. And it's kind of sad because I've been working for over 12 years, and this is the first workplace that I've experienced that. Secondly, I never saw myself represented on media, on screens, as a complex, chronically ill person of colour from a refugee background. And so I created that space. I became an agency-represented model. I've been doing runways and shows and put myself in those spaces, and I demanded to be in those spaces because we deserve that representation and we deserve that narrative. So I put myself there. Yeah, all of your stories and your lived experiences matter so much, and you can create that change by knowing that we are all here collectively supporting you, which is why the Human Rights Conference exists and why we do what we're doing. So be proud.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a moment that comes to mind. So a lot of intersex people who were subjected to non-vital surgeries, medical intervention, hormonal treatments by the medical community often are left dependent on the same medical community because, for example, if a person, had a gonadectomy, which is, if you say it bluntly, is literally castration, and the person is left without their hormones, which are important for bone density, and then the person needs to take hormone replacement therapy for the rest of their lives. So a lot of intersex people are dependent on the medical institution. And so earlier this year, after I moved to Germany, I went to see a doctor, and for me it's always horribly scary. I'm always freaking out. I'm always remembering all the times where doctors said like horrible things to me. So I actually asked an intersex friend to come with me sort of for mental health support. And it was the first time that I had a positive experience, and the doctor, she was absolutely wonderful and welcoming. She tried to calm myself down. She did not fix my terminology. She did not tell me that I have a disorder of sex development, quote unquote, or anything like that. And at the end of the appointment, she was like, by the way, do you know that there are organizations that provide support to intersex people? I was like, oh my God, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I've worked for such an organization, and my friend does as well. But this was like the sweetest thing when a person comes from the human rights perspective, person refers you to peer support, to organizations with people coming from the community. That was absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, that was definitely a wonderful moment, and I'm so happy that it happened to me.
Thank you.
Okay. I was going to say, when I get to hang out with like my trans mob, which yeah, I've been very fortunate, and it's really good because a lot of them I haven't seen in a while, in a hot sec, and there's also been bumping into like my family and stuff from Palm Island, which has been beautiful. So yeah, that's me.
I guess I spend a lot of time being asexual on the internet. Like, that's kind of my job. And it's exhausting because there is a lot of, oh, you're not a real queer person, blah, blah. And I really enjoy going to any kind of queer or LGBTQIA plus event in Canberra, where I come from, because I just feel so a part of that community. And whenever I go to anything there, ACT ACES, the local organisation, we are so welcome there. We're really accepted there. I know everybody there. When I see them, I'm like, oh my, hi, the whole time that I'm there. And so it's such a change from being in this environment where I'm constantly asked to justify myself and why I'm allowed to be there, to just be in this place in my local town where I feel just like so welcome and so much a part of the community. So, yeah.
Thank you. So I want to leave you just with a last reflection. So when you see us, do not assume. Please do not. And if you have questions, come and ask. That's the easiest way, always. You don't know, you ask. boxes, and that's a thought that I brought from the Bisexual pre-conference yesterday, I think? Yes, yesterday or the day before. I'm lost in time. Boxes work to categorize our life, but boxes do not work to live our lives. So thank you all of you for being with me in this panel. It was very, very interesting. Thank you for sharing your lives, your experiences, your time. Thank you to all of you for being here after lunch, that I know it's a difficult time for being in a panel. I want to say thank you to the interpreters, the sign language interpreters that are somewhere, I don't know where, but thank you so much for being with us, and enjoy the conference.